Good morning, guys, or whatever time of day you're listening to this. This is the third in my series of posts from reading the posts from this Avalon Sol person who is being posted on a friend of mine's page named Matthew. So, what we're doing is we're tag teaming this. Matthew is able to find the information the rest of us don't have access to. And then I'm reading it and putting it on YouTube so that you can listen to it. So this is the post from just a little while ago, and again, I am picking and choosing what I think is the most important. But I will probably end up reading all of these so that you can have access to it when you're ready for the information. This will come to you when you're ready for it. If you're listening to this, that means you were ready for it. You drew it into your awareness. You drew it into your reality. So if you are listening to this, and I know that it will be few, it will be only a few people because this path is very narrow. And only some of us are here running like this portion of the mission. It doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't equally as important. If this doesn't resonate, it doesn't mean squat. It just means skip past the video. This is for the people who will lock onto it like I and people of my ilk have locked onto it. This is titled Human Weakness, the Massive Lie. You might think because I am teaching ascension mechanics training here that I am a new age spiritualist. I'm not. This is also true for me, by the way. In fact, I have absolutely nothing to do with new age spiritualism, nothing to do with taking drugs for hallucinogenic brushes with the astral planes, nothing to do with Christianity. That's with a lowercase c, since that entire paradigm is based on a nearly flawless lie. Buddhism or any other religion or faith, I am here with one message, that of the law of one, the teachings handed to the angelic human species by their creators, the Guardian Alliance, originally known as the Guardians of Terra, since that is where you were originally seated. You are no longer on Terra, and before you mistake the names of planets as their names, let me dispel that myth as well. The names of planets are the names of their office within their 15-level time matrix, not their name at all. Once a planet that has previously hosted such office of position falls from that place, it takes on a new name that represents its current planetary status. Mars wasn't always Mars. Mars used to be a piece of Terra, just as Jupiter and Pluto. And Earth and all the rest of the actual planets in this star system used to be Terra. The position of office this once incredibly large planet used to be before it was torn into many different pieces during the War of the Fall of Man 550 million years ago. That's the factually correct, your planet is not a she. His parallel planet, Phantom Earth, is a she. Try not to get hung up on this new fact. He has been healing ever since. And just because those planets are no longer connected physically doesn't mean that collectively they are no longer actually connected, which they are through quantum entanglement as the very same being, even though they appear to be separate, which they are not. I will give you a few minutes to wrap your head around that 500 million year old history before we begin our second paragraph. I do not expect you to just get it the first time you read these articles. This is covering hundreds of millions of years of ground in only a few minutes. What does all that have to do with humans and their weakness? Unless you can understand where you came from, how long you have been here, how you so-called fell, and what really happened, you will never be able to assimilate what it is you actually are here for and just how much effort has gone into your creation. This is not a religion. I am not a guru, a shaman, or any intuitive empath. I am a being who is here from very similar historic genesis as the human species, as a way shower for the soul group seated to this planet when your grand experiment began. And now you, the hybrid offspring of an incredibly important experiment that has had an incredibly difficult road to walk, to finally ascend. Do not look to me to know all about your Indian guru's teachings, about the messages of Buddha, or talk about the fully fictionalized Jesus who never actually existed as that being, or bring you 40 years of spiritual training. I was activated for my journey less than 3 years ago. I was given 1 billion years worth of your history all at once and then turned out into your masses so that you would have some idea of what the law of one really is and why you will be required to know it, believe it, and live it, or you don't actually get to move forward. There is no use for any of the programs of brainwashing and entraining of what your so called spiritual leaders here have used to confuse you so that when this precise 10-year window opened, you would be unable to see the actual truth. Hate me now for saying they were duped into their teachings, so you can get over it by the next paragraph. I know that feeling. Humans are weak, frail, stupid, not to be trusted to lead themselves. Okay, then stop lying to them about literally every single thing they were ever taught, and let's see for ourselves if this is true. Because before the invader races fell on the species here, they lived in perfect harmony and joy without war or conflict for 10 million years. Read that again. 10 million years in paradise, a place factually named Eden. If 10 million years of being able to lead themselves isn't enough time to prove to anyone that the angelic human Christos wasn't truly able to be trusted to wipe their own noses, then I don't know what is. But you have zero way of knowing this about your ancestors, which was actually you in earlier lifetimes, because your captors have wiped every single written text of this history off of your planet and blank slated your memories so you would have no way of connecting back to who you really were. And who that is something that is spoken of in the interstellar communities throughout the cosmos in hushed and reverent tones. No, this is not a joke or pandering. You can believe this message or not, and it will not make any difference to the fulfillment of our contracts here. We, Indigo, have zero use for anything now that isn't actual fact. What I am telling you just so happens to be true. And it was not crafted to make you feel special. It was crafted to inform you of the raw data surrounding your existence. Who you were, why you came here, what is it about the angelic human that sets this one species apart from the millions of angelic species within the cosmos? Angelic is a term. It is not in reference to all beings in the higher dimensions as angels. Angelic is a DNA template feature, a term carried forward from trillions of different species down through hundreds of trillions of years of creating new types of beings. Angelic happened to be a really sought after feature in a DNA template. That is why there are so many of them out there today. Human doesn't mean just this one species on this one planet. There are trillions of human species out there. It denotes certain physical aspects of a biological avatar, and it is only one of many different aspects of the angelic human Christos super race. What angelic humans here have that they don't have all across the cosmos is the Christos feature. That one feature is the reason you have been enslaved, tortured, bioformed, and murdered for 550 million years. We will get into that in a few minutes in the next paragraph. Yes, I am giving you a little while to catch your breath first. Side note, guys, I'm so sorry I keep clearing my throat. I don't know. I got water here. I turned my fan off. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But if you guys can just get past my throat clearing, I can't pause it every time I have to clear my throat, but I know it's got to be annoying. So I do apologize in advance. All right. So I gave you that little intermission to begin to process all of this information. And I'm reading this to you because it resonates with me. Like I said, I've already downloaded all of this stuff, but I never heard anybody else say it like this. But this person puts it so perfectly. Back to the reading. Lots of New Age spiritual guides like to tell you that humans are of immense power. And then that's it. They literally leave the message with no period after it. No explanation as to why you are of immense power and why you are divine. They just sense it. They just somehow know it. And while they are right, and the message of this power did likely come down to them from their higher self, the explanation is missing. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. The explanation is missing. And it has been missing for over 10,000 years now, save the very few tiny periods of time that the Law of One was being disseminated among the human element through voices such as Thoth before he defected and returned to the Luciferian treaty, and Yeshua Ahumbra Melchizedek before he too returned to the Luciferian treaty, and Yeshua Sananda Melchizedek, whom you call Jesus, who in fact was representative of your actual species. The stories of how all of these played out is exhaustive and not part of this article. But suffice it to say that no one here is going to tell you why you are as powerful as you truly are, because they simply aren't allowed to. And if they try to tell you, then those who are not under contract here, complete with protection, have always been assassinated immediately. This voice has that protection, and you are going to hear about it now. You are inside of a 10-year period of time that your founding fathers have been struggling to get you to now for 980 million years. That time period includes the time it took to perfect your genetic design that predates your seeding to this planet 550 million years ago. Yes, it took that long to design you, even though the templates predating yours spanned into trillions of previous years. Those templates of DNA were empirically arrived at through the creation of more soul groups, you call these star races or ETs, than the human brain is allowed to process. So it is irrelevant for me to try to put a number on it, as that number changes every single day as new beings come into creation. There is a difference between those that had come before you and who you are now today, and therein lies the answer to your power. This 10-year period is the end of your long cycle, which means that the celestial bodies of your solar system align in such a way as to infuse your planet with frequencies that are able to sustain a mass ascension of the evolution of that species. Time and time again, when this period came, your captors have always found a way to plate shift your planet to erase nearly all of you, blow this planet apart so it can't possibly hold the frequencies of ascension, or to absolutely eradicate your seeding completely off this planet, something called terra cleansing, referring back to the time when the soil under your feet used to hold the position of harmonic universe 2, host planet to the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions, that office being Terra, the second density of your 15-dimension, 15-level time matrix. Your 10-year window to ascend began on 12/21/12. It wasn't the, that must be 12/21/12. It wasn't the end of the world as the media wanted to paint it when the long cycle tracked by the Maya ended. It was always about when you would finally be able to move forward to your next level. That level has been torn away from you now for hundreds of your lifetimes, an unthinkably cruel act of your captors. This will be the last cycle here, and this one will not be wrestled away from you unless you actively assist them in not participating once again. Down through the ages, there was always a plan in place to finally break you free of this prison. It involved hundreds of thousands of beings who would be from your founding father races, who would be able to enter into your final few days here and post the frequencies needed to support your planet's vibration through the stellar activation cycle. It has filtered down to you as being 144,000 elect, and then turned back around yet again to mean that only 144,000 of your species were so-called good enough to ascend, and hence God would rapture them into the sky and leave the rest of you mongrels here to die in a fiery hell of 7 years of tribulation, torture, and horrific death. What those 144,000 were indigos who had previously played the role of your captors in times long since past and now had defected, boom, from the collective under Luciferian treaty and entered into something called a Palladorian Indigo Bioregenesis birthing contract. Yes, we did used to be the bad guys. That's me talking. That's not the reading. I definitely have been one of the bad guys before. I'm not now. I'm here making things right, but this is true. We have covered this contract in depth in other articles, and I suggest you read them so you can know exactly what that means. In short, it means that each one of these beings who had once been your slavers would now act in the role as your end-time way-showers, leading you out of the hell they had once been a part of, trapping you in. But this didn't mean there were only 144,000 indigos here to help you find your way out. It was a significant number they could place on this exact 10-year cycle. There were to be 500,000 indigos here, the vast majority which had come to your planet beginning 200 years before the stellar activation cycle. In order to pave the way for this one final mass seeding of super high frequency beings under Elohim angelic contracts, as a stealth move to silently do the work of actually and finally breaking the absolute stronghold on your evolution here. So what are the 144,000? The 144,000 were seeded to your planet beginning in 1999 and ending with the last one on 12/21/12. This extremely narrow window of time was intended to place all of these beings here in a short enough time as to make their presence here difficult for your captors to keep track of them all. Side note, by the way, that's why they need every baby injected. You know how the king went after Jesus when Jesus was born, how he was like, well, I can't find Jesus, so let's just kill every firstborn son. Remember that? This is a version of that. All of the injections, this is a version of that. They need these babies injected because they don't know which ones are the ones coming here to save everybody. So let's suppress every single one of them. Back to the reading. Each one was placed here under the precise contract to bring enormous frequency into your planet's plasma body, quantum entangled to its own morphogenetic unified field, to bring his frequency into harmony with that of the next higher density, that of Harmonic Universe 2, where he once held the position of host planet for dimensions 4, 5, and 6. Also, to act as conduits of energy and knowledge for the human element known as the life force of this field, to synchronize with Earth's precise frequency. Many of these indigo never even made it home from the hospital, but were abducted and imprisoned for the rest of their lives, as your invader races were not allowed to kill them, so their voices were silenced upon birth. Their parents were informed that their child had died, and that was that. If they couldn't kill them, then at least they would be of no avail to educate those around them about higher understanding, as they did not have the same vulnerability to the lowering of frequency that humans had from the Zeta Draco frequency fence, allowing their frequency to remain vastly higher than that of the humans. A vast many of those who escaped instant abduction upon birth were then sentenced to life in psychiatric wards and fed drugs that would lower their frequencies. This was easy to institute since type 3 indigos are autistic, and that diagnosis alone was enough to have them committed. So why do humans and these other beings from other star systems of the indigo act differently under the powers of the frequency fence from each other? Because the species that had been ordained as that to be disposed of, humans, vibrate in a different frequency field from the indigo ETs, and the human frequency was what needed to be lowered the furthest by the fence. The fence, though brought to this timeline from a timeline far in the future from this one by the time travel expert Zetas, holding incredible power and technology, only brought the ability to lower ET frequency to some degree, but clearly had the capacity to lower the frequency of the 12-strand DNA frequency of the angelic humans in a very radical manner. Hence, humans suffer here with the lowest frequency of all, and this translates directly into IQ. The lower the IQ, the higher frequency of the original signature spirit essence that had entered into contract to evolve an angelic human Christos avatar from this precise time frequency. It didn't work the same way on Orphan Angelics, who had come here from Alcyon Pleiades as your original captors. And it didn't work at all on the very low frequency captors here from the Alpha Draconis star system known as the Dracos or Leviathan Draconians. This has to do with levels of harmonic resonance associated with DNA templates or level of evolution needed to ascend an avatar out of a time matrix. So if it seems like we are talking down to you, just understand it's our intention to speak as directly to you as your captors have allowed, and we mean no disrespect. Frequency has everything to do with IQ and abilities allowed while under the fence. And your 144,000 indigos here now are uniquely gifted who have entered deliberately into a guerrilla war zone once again and manifest mortal form in order to bring you out of this prison camp. This brings us to why you humans are so powerful. Though teachers from all walks love to tell you just how great you are, they simply have no real foundation for their claims. Your true power comes from your heritage. But who are you exactly? Why was your one species targeted so viciously? What makes you so special, if in fact you were really special to start with? Or has this always been a ploy to make you fall yet to another religious scheme designed to put one man in a Rolls Royce while the believers walk to church in holy shoes? 950 billion years ago, the evolution of biological animated beings came into a new level of use of the standing energy fields of God Source. Before this time, all life force or avatars, also known as living beings, were not fitted. In parentheses, living beings were not fitted with a program of instinct and sense designed to be utterly taken over by a sentient awareness from God Source as their sole manifest vehicle. But before this time, all life force or avatars had been designed to continue to live only by feeding from another energy source already existing. It was literally a dog-eat-dog existence in the cosmos. Either those life forces ate some sort of food or they had to absorb aura energy or Merkaba field energy from another life force, or it would begin to deteriorate and eventually die. Even if they continued to intake energy from other life forces, they still had limited lifespans. It was a cruel system of life and rebirth in order to maintain a manifest form, our body. While your body, avatar, seems to be real, made out of solid and liquid matter, it, along with everything else in creation, was created out of holographic manipulation of photonic energy from the God Source standing energy fields. Everything is, in fact, a hologram. This is even known by your quantum physicists today. This new so-called breakthrough in avatar creation came in the form of a being named the Anuhazi Elohim. The Elohim archangels spoke of in your history books, such as the Bible and hundreds of religious texts from around the world, were created by beings known as eternal gestalts, referred to as Yanas, from Lyra Aramatina, from the Sirius star system. And when I say created, I mean that their DNA templates of the biological life force had been engineered by the Gestalt scientists using Keylontic, subquantum, cymatic, geometric pattern commanding science to harness the standing energy fields of God Source to hold the form intended. Side note, this is true. I remember this. Like, everything in my body is popping and exploding. This is true. I believe that I had a part in some of this. I must have worked on some of this because my whole body has chills. The hairs on my arms are standing up straight. I was a part of this, and this is true. We were created, and we were created out of these photonic patterns. And we really, when I say we're limitless, I have tears in my eyes. And now I'm going to be choked up and even worse, clearing my throat. If you could see what I see right now, if you could remember what I remember right now, if I could pull you into this memory field, of knowing that we are made of the same stuff that every great thing has ever been made of. We are made of the same stuff as the stars. We are literally limitless. We are infinite, infinite. We can take any form we want. We are not stuck in these bodies. You know all the stories, and I know I'm going off the reading, but I have to tell you this. You know those stories about all the, I don't know, say all of these so-called mythical creatures and Zeus and Thor and all of these, the hybrids and the animal human forms and the great gods and even the bad ones, all of these stories that we have been taught are myth. They are you. They are you. They are possible forms. They are forms we have taken before. They are you. You are that person because the same photonic energy that flowed through those bodies, those beings, those entities, that very same light that flowed through them flows through you. You are made of the same stuff. There is nothing that you can't do. Please know this. I'm saying it, but part of me knows it, and part of me, there's two of me. There's two. There's something that pushes this power and information that flows through my body that feels so overwhelming, like my body is going to collapse, like it's so true and so powerful. And then there's the avatar, Lisa, that's running the earth programs. And it's such a dichotomy. And I am in the middle of choosing because I don't want to run them both anymore. I need to let this power come through me. You all have this same power. I know you have memories. I know you do. If you're listening to my voice, you have memories. I know you do. And you question yourself. You question the memories. You think maybe you're crazy, or you think they're dreams, or you think it's your imagination. No, my love, it is not. It is who you are. Allow yourself to step into that power. I know that it's hard because you're like, how am I going to pay my freaking electric bill? They're going to come take my car. My job's mad at me. All of it's bullshit, baby. It's bullshit. It isn't true. And my friend Elaine, who passed away, we both got sick at the same time, September 2nd. She did not survive. I did. She is here. She's just walked in here. And she is telling me she is so excited. She's like, yes, what you're saying is true. Yes, I'm here. Let me tell you, Lisa. She is screaming at me. Everything you told me is true. She's saying it's true and more and more. This is true. I can't speak for every single thing that's in this material that I'm reading as being true. And there are some details that I think really aren't as important, but they might be important to you. And I don't want us to get hung up in minutia. But this, guys, this is true. And this is important. And I hope you can allow yourself to really know and remember who you really are. Let me repeat that last sentence. The Elohim archangels spoken of in your history books, such as the Bible and hundreds of religious texts from around the world, were created by beings known as eternal gestalts, referred to as yanas, from Lyra Arimatina from the Sirius star system. And when I say created, I mean that their DNA templates of that biological life force had been engineered by the Gestalt scientists using chelantic, subquantum, cymatic, geometric pattern commanding science to harness the standing energy fields of God source to hold the form intended. An energy field that is limitless and eternal. The power they worked off of to create this amazing new type of avatar was styled loosely off the Anahazi, who are the feline hominid Elohai, Elohim, Christos, and yes, they did look like cats. They were a very ancient progenitor of your template today, but more on that in a moment. This article would be the length of a book just to cover how geometric patterns hold the scalar wave command fire letter codes, Phoenix, that was me, which command all particles to hold the shape and matter density of whatever a sentient being wishes those particles to hold the shape of. Suffice it to say, this is DNA on a deeper level than human science has ever peered into by an extreme measure. No one creates another being. All they can do is create the command sequence that causes the energy particles to hold the shape of a biological or other body, allowing the awareness of a fractal or a particle of God's source to inhabit the body. Only the signature sentient awareness of that one fractal of God can make the decision to inhabit that body. So no one put you here in manifestation of this time matrix. They have placed your awareness in a body that you did not originally sign up for after you arrived and trapped you in a slave system you had not intended to find yourself in. But no one sent you here. The Elohim's unique energetic connection directly to the eternal unified plasma field of the deity planes was the one breakthrough that made the difference between how life could be experienced without the consent needed to refuel, paving the way for millions of new time matrices where manifestation can be experienced. It also gave the Elohim unlimited command of the God source energy fields, a reservoir of kinetic energy vastly beyond the reach of any other physical being previously in existence, making them, physically speaking, way beyond just powerful. Of course, this new energy source also fueled them in other highly unique ways, as their DNA template held codes that could now tap into this immense power any way it wanted to, something that had not been available to biological forms up until this time. If you can imagine flying using your elegant and beautiful wings without ever getting tired, you start to get the picture of what made them such an amazing species. The arc, or silver strand, similar to a never-ending lightning bolt that connected them to this unlimited source of power, would later be added to the name of self-proclaimed group of gods, as we will see in a moment. And so it was, the Elohim were indeed considered godlike within the interstellar communities during the 950 billion years since their creation. Other beings, or avatars, which are manifest particles of God source awareness, of the deity planes, which you refer to as heaven, with antiquated DNA templates, considered the Elohim to be the highest evolution of all time, in air quotes, for this period. And the Elohim really enjoyed this position of adoration. As far as they were concerned, they would prefer things to stay just the way they were. This next section is called Absolute Power Corrupts Absolutely. Even in the deity planes, this can be true as well, because eventually a small group of the Elohim decided that they would deem themselves overseers of the cosmos, God, if you like, though that's not what they called themselves. A self-proclaimed position of power that certainly was not theirs to make, and flew in the face of sovereign principles supported by the IAFW, or the Interdimensional Association of Free Worlds, which embraces the law of one. This new fraternity would be called Anu Elohim, the Mikalub Sons of Baal, and their intent was to keep the cosmos free from avatars that might be too powerful for the interstellar communities. Though this was more an excuse to keep the cosmos the way they had been, where everyone thought of them as close to the real thing that gods might actually be. It's fair to note here that all decisions about life, manifestation, and experiencing reality within time matrices always landed on the collective of God source awareness, trillions of individual personalities of one ultimate awareness, what mankind and many other beings refer to as God. It was never about one species usurping the position of the creator, since all the trillions of fractals of God source awareness were always in charge of all things that the God source collective chose to either do or not do. And the drama that unfolded over the ensuing battle between the Mikalub and the founding fathers of the Angelic Human Christos was always the story about Satan versus God. Let me read that sentence again. and the drama that unfolded over the ensuing battle between the Mikalub and the founding fathers of the angelic human Christos was always the story about Satan versus God. The reason why the terms Satan and Lucifer are used today to refer to the bad guy who challenged God and was cast down to earth has to do with the names of the beings that the Mikalub ultimately used in their quest to stop human evolution. As two of the main players here in your enslavement were named Marduk Satan and Thoth Lucifer, part of a larger collective of beings who had been created as Anu Avengers, who were literally hitmen created for one reason: stopping your species from reaching any higher than the third dimension of this one time matrix. Regardless of how much Marduk and Thoth had to do with your dramas here on Earth, it had always been the Mikalub who were at the head of the invader race table. It's just that your religious programs here always sought to make Archangel Michael, the Mikalub, look like the good guy. So they made Satan and Lucifer interchangeable bad guys in the stories passed on to you. This way, when you referred to God, Satan, Baal, or Lucifer, you were unknowingly referring to the one fraternity at the top of the pyramid, the Mikalub, the whole time, but thinking your deities and demons were actually different entities. They were not. Your true founding fathers never injected themselves into your day-to-day dramas here, as the Emerald Covenant made it clear that your evolution was to be a sovereign journey. So while in the perspective of your having a creator God, you sort of do, but the God mentioned in the Bible and the other religious texts were always referring to the group that chose to place themselves in this position. The Anu, Elohim, Mikalub. We mentioned before where the designation of the ARC in Archangel Michael comes from, the silver strand connecting them to unlimited power and what made an archangel so much greater than mere angels. Now we get into why there was ever a problem with the evolution of just another one of the trillions of soul groups entering into the interstellar communities, and what it was that happened to the angelic human Christos soul group, as briefly touched on in one of the previous paragraphs. What was wrong with this one species anyway that would command so much attention for so very long, and why had they been attacked repeatedly down through the ages? After all, the first extinction level event happened to the first seeding of the angelic human evolution on this planet 550 million years ago, just 10 million years after it began. Then, 240,000 years ago, the second seeding of your same group was utterly destroyed, once again, by beings created by the same race that destroyed the human seeding the first time. Then, 13,500 years ago, the third seeding of your very same race was captured and imprisoned by the very same invader races as a 500 million years preceding. What happened that would be so bad about this new soul group? It was the true genesis of your species that made it unthinkable to the Mikalub for it to become just another species among the trillions already existing in the higher dimensions. The genesis of the race you now call human here is in every way considered royalty in the interstellar communities who have been eagerly anticipating your entry now for 560 million years. And when we say that, we can tell you just how royal it really is. The bloodline of this evolution comes directly from the DNA template of the Elohim, the portion of the collective group of Elohim who never abandoned this species, nor had anything to do with its eradication. After seeing just how amazing this new feature of unlimited power had been for the Elohim, a group of geneticists, Grail line Orifeme Angelics from Sirius B, decided to perfect it even further. Their superior creation was then used as the template used for the human experiment here on Earth. More on that in a minute. Regarding the term Grail in the name of the beings behind the stage of your evolution, Grail is another term for the word Christos, mentioned in the angelic human Christos species. Another term for this same feature is Arc, A-R-C, as the Anu Elohim went on to add to their archangel status in reference to the silver strand to eternal life developed in the Elohim. The bloodline of the Elohim template has always been the holy grail spoken of in your religious texts, as it has always been the one most coveted feature of all the beings. The chalice of the Holy Grail always meant a real human body, and not some cup made of special metal from the heavens that imparted eternal life. Your captors do not share this feature with you, which is another large topic for another time. The creation of earth angels from the royal house of Arimathea. The DNA template that had been used to create the Elohim had been used for the creation of many new species over the period of 950 billion years. One such subspecies was the Grail line Orifeme Angelics from the royal house of Arimathea of Pallador, Sirius B. That group of geneticists decided to take the project even further and created their own subspecies with the same Grail Christos strand. This wouldn't be just one new species, it would be 5. It is difficult for the human mind to comprehend the massive history to the human species and the overall message being set before you now. I realize that. But if you are going to hear the real truth that has been hidden from you for millions of years, you will have to try to imagine that there is no such thing as anything that seems to be alive, and no such thing that seems to be inanimate that didn't go through the very same trillions of years of perfecting. Likewise, the human species was not some one-off Hail Mary. The empirical development of your species and every species in existence dates back billions of times further than humankind has ever been allowed to imagine. The Orifeme had dropped the long, elegant, flowing wings that the Elohim were well known for, and they advanced the DNA coding to include other powers that the Elohim never had. The importance of wings only had to do with the lowest 3 levels of time matrices, where flight would have to be managed mechanically. In higher dimensions, this would be archaic, since flight and translocation is an everyday thing here. The 5 new races were then seeded to the land of Pallador and over millions of years evolved into 5 distinct races, all from the same genetic base template. One had brown skin, another red, another white, another yellow, and the final one was black. These all carried incredibly unique abilities we won't get into in this conversation, but each one were amazing and in real terms equal in their true value to the interstellar communities. It was an awe-inspiring accomplishment, and the Orifeme Angelics were extremely proud of their creation. For their Sirius B project, the Orifeme Angelics were perfect, but a bigger project made its way to the forefront, and another group from all segments of this time matrix, as well as many others, came together to use these 5 Elohim evolutions to create what would be referred to casually as the Grand Experiment, and scientifically, the Tyrannusium Project. I'm sure I said that word wrong. This group is now known as the Guardian Alliance, and the only reason you find yourself on Earth today. What came next would be the birth of human man to a planet that had been created for and coded to the distinct new super race called the Angelic Human Christos. By now, I shouldn't have to bother mentioning that it had nothing in the cosmos to do with apes. The Tyrannusium project began 980 million years ago on a planet called Terra. It was a second density host planet for dimensions 4, 5, and 6 of the 15-level time matrix of Gaia. Here, the super race would finally begin 550 million years ago after the science had concluded, where all 5 of the Orifeme Angelics carrying the Grail bloodline of the Elohim would all be seeded together to intermix their bloodlines together to create the one most advanced race yet for evolution of the Christ, K-R-Y-S-T. I think that stands for something. I think that's whatever that word is for when letters stand for something. It's not an anagram. You know what I mean. For 10 million years, this elegant and beautiful new species would evolve into the one slightly tan-skinned, humble yet brilliant being with advanced clair abilities, advanced music and artistic sense, and highly creative, not to mention heightened emotional responses. Breatharians who never had to eat or sleep, just live and enjoy manifestation. Perfection. Next section is called Fallen Angels and the Fall of Man. The group of Elohim who had decided they didn't care for the idea of this new super race of beings entering into higher dimensions than the bottom of the time matrix of Gaia, not yet formally the Mikalub, but merely fallen Elohim angelics who had chosen to manage the Cosmayas, went before the Emerald Council, the council that is in charge of the oversight of the evolution of the angelic human, and formally asked for permission to come into the Gaia time matrix and use humans who all had their own arc connections to the unlimited power of the God Source energy fields as slaves. The council thought about it, then said, hell no. Undeterred, the Anu Elohim decided to band together, and after 10 million years of the incredibly successful evolution of the Tyrannusium species, came down to Terra and opened fire, blasting the planet into many different pieces and sending the host planet body off the office of Terra down to merely survival in harmonic universe 1 of the Gaia time matrix. All human life was lost, and this marked what is now referred to as the fall of man. Over the coming more than 300 million years, while the planet had healed enough to once again host a life force and your species was once again seated back, only this time in dimension 3 instead of the original 4th you had previously ascended to, the fallen angels formed their official renegade group, the Mikalub, Sons of Baal. It would be at this time, 240 million years ago, that they would create the bipedal dolphin group they would name the Jehovah Anunnaki, the hitman race designed for one purpose: to stop the evolution of human man. The Anunnaki then traveled to other star systems and bioformed the multiple races of the Leviathan Draconians and Alpha Draconis, enlisting them as Assassin Draco Anunnaki to help them in their quest. They later went on to do the very same thing to the sister evolution of Earth-based man, the Syrian Oraphim angelics seated to Procyon Pleiades, creating the Samjazi Syrian Pleiadian Anunnaki for a new gang of thugs enlisted to also bioform and destroy your species from within. The last 2 invasions of your planet would be carried out by these hybrid beings carrying the code of your extinction in their very DNA from the original Anunnaki, who have deliberately scrambled your DNA higher than your second strand, disconnecting you from your arc connection to your higher self and the energy fields where you once had command of the power of the universe itself. You have been entrained to think that you were created in a mythical story of Adam and Eve. God took an earthbound ape, mixed in soil from the earth, and created this lowly, moronic, and clearly pathetic being he called man. He then took a rib from the ape man, and from this bone he created his assistant Eve. Eve was so stupid. She ate an apple from a tree, the only tree in Eden they weren't supposed to eat from, and because of that, she shamed both Adam and herself into a continual life of pain and suffering, blocked from their sanctuary of Eden. Poor stupid Eve. And poor stupid Adam, who couldn't refuse her. So now they both carry on this never-ending perpetuity of ignorance, even though they had eaten from the tree of knowledge. Forever recycling into a reality of mortal existence where there wasn't enough food to go around, not enough shelter to go around, and so their lives would be marked by pain, suffering, and then punctuated by the near-death experience that Eve would have to suffer through each time she bore children. Once that desperately miserable existence came to an end, then you would endure the horror of death, which is not part of your genetic design, by the way. And then it would all start over again with your memories wiped. Morons, you deserved this. So get to it. Well, then that is a very compelling story designed to make certain that you would forever do 2 things. 1, blame every man on earth for being so foolish as to be around such a stupid being as a woman who was so weak she couldn't resist Satan's lies and subjected them to both to eternal hell on earth, and 2, that women are simple-minded and gullible, resigning her to the position as eternally the inferior to a man where she would have no rights. She would then be below man who did no wrong himself, but merely tried to befriend her through her apparent ignorance and complete lack of common sense anyway. Adam was the ignorant hero, and Eve was a worthless moron. and so became your genesis into manifest reality where egalitarian bonding would never exist. Yay! It would be comforting for humans to know that none of this actually happened, and of course it didn't. But now, after hundreds of lifetimes of being lied to, will you be able to trust this message? Well, that will be up to you. At this time, this is just a voice whom you have never heard before, so it can be easily dismissed like yesterday's newspaper. It will be the rare person who will have educated themselves on life history enough to hear and understand this voice comes to you from Oraphim Angelics under the Emerald Covenant to protect your species during your evolution here. This is the message of the 500,000 Palladorian indigos representing your original founding fathers and under contract to share with you the truth about your creation and to show you the true path home. We are the Guardian Alliance. You will come to know this term very intimately over the next 7 years of your stellar activation cycle. You never came from apes, you never came from dirt, and your women here were never your inferiors. Ever. And this is merely the tip of the iceberg of what you haven't been told. All meant to make you feel like a race of animals where you can be easily controlled and enslaved. Yet through this stellar activation cycle, your planet has been infused with more high-energy scalar waves, specifically formatted to raise the frequency of your own plasma body, as well as that of your planet, than it has for more than 26,000 years. The path your planet is now on is entering deeper and deeper into an area of the galaxy where very high frequencies dictate the type of existence there, known as the fourth dimension and higher. As the many different types of scalar waves are also sent into your planet from the core of the sun, controlled entirely now by the Guardian Alliance, your DNA will begin to correct itself, allowing you greater and greater connection to your higher self and a remembrance of how to command the ether, restoring your true original powers. This will be a time when your invader races will no longer want to be here, because it wouldn't take 7 billion of you to overcome your captors. It would just take one. And now you know what we are talking about when we say that you have no idea of your own power. All love, Avalon Sol. Well, that was a lot. That was a lot, and a lot of it is very true. I always leave room for distortion when this information comes to Earth. I always leave room for some distortion, and I have a thing where when I'm reading something or listening to something, it's like as the information drops down into my fields, it's like Tinder. I don't know if you swipe left or right on someone you like or don't like, but when some of the information comes down into my field, it's like this is important, swipe right. No, this is important, swipe left. This is not important, swipe left. Or this is definitely true, swipe right. This is partially true or not completely true or immaterial, swipe left. So I actively filter through the information in real time as I get it. And so I hope that you don't get hung up on the tiny bits of minutia about how many millions of years ago and what every race was called and all of that stuff. I think that the message from me, the message that I took from this is that we are badasses, number one. We are more powerful than we have been allowed to imagine. And I know this is true. I know we were specially created, and I know how these avatars actually are supposed to operate. And I know that we do not any longer have to be in misery, and we do not have to be oppressed. Any oppression that we experience now going forward, especially after you have actually listened to this recording, any oppression we experience is our own choice. So I am working on changing thought patterns and behavior patterns and trying to break the old spells that would prevent me from activating or recognizing and utilizing the power that is inside of me, that I know is inside of me, that I am. I am power. I actually personally have a memory. I had a very clear vision one night in meditation, and it felt like it was a memory, where I saw the moment of my creation, of the energy and power that's in this avatar called Lisa. I saw the moment, and I'm sure that it was put in a very simple, oversimplified way for me, so that my little pea brain could process what I was seeing. But what I saw was a couple of women in a desert, and again, this is symbolic. Okay, I know that it happened much more scientifically than this, but the symbolic representation that I was shown is that there were these women, and they were saying that this realm needed power. Like it was like a recipe. It was like, okay, you're making a cake, you need flour and eggs and sugar. Okay, so they were creating a scenario on this planet for the liberation of humans. And I was part of that recipe, and I was the ingredient called power. And I saw them pluck the most powerful codes out of the ether. They chose these light patterns. They personally plucked them out, and they commanded them onto earth into human avatars. And I am one of the avatars who got this power code installed in them. I am power. I don't have power. I am power. And this is not to toot my horn. This is what I am. And I think that it's right and good for us to explore ourselves and who we are. We cannot we can't use our gifts and talents and skills to save humanity if we're afraid to look at ourselves, because we think that we're going to seem egotistical if we do. I don't give a crap if you think I'm egotistical. I'm not. I'm desirous of truth. If anything, my power is embarrassing. If anything, it has been a point of humiliation for me over my life, because I am so different. And I can't walk in these stupid, ridiculous ways. I can't do this dumb shit. And as much as I tried to forget who I was and squash who I was and try to be someone else, I have physically had my butt kicked for it. I've experienced many negative results of this code that I am running. However, I have also experienced many amazing results of this. So I don't mean that it's something that I have any enmity against. It is just who I am. And I am exploring who and what I am so that I can be of use. I made the video last week, take stock, or it was the week before. I can't do time anymore. Taking stock. Who am I? What am I good at? What are my gifts? What are my skills? What's in my arsenal? We need to know this. We need to know this now. It can be only one that changes this, that shifts this. But it'd be a hell of a lot better if it was a whole bunch of us, because I certainly, as of yet, have a long way to go and can't do this by myself, but I guarantee you all of us together can. And it doesn't have to be technically all of us. It can just be a few of us. A few activated warriors can break us out of this. And I don't mean it in a way where I'm saying we are victims and we have been victimized. I don't care for that paradigm. I don't like it. I am not holding judgment, honestly. In my heart, I'm not holding judgment about what they have done to us. It's like, okay, fair play, good game. Okay, I saw what you did there. Good job, but I'm still going to whip your ass. Okay, I appreciate all the effort. I appreciate the fear. When I was reading this, I could feel the fear that they feel about us. They are afraid of you. Do you understand that? They're afraid of me. We should not be afraid of them. They are afraid of us, and they should be afraid of us, because we're about to tear this bitch down. I love you guys.